If you were sinking in quicksand, the first thing your body would want to do is struggle as hard as possible to get out. That's a natural reaction. Kick harder. Pull yourself up. Panic. Do everything you can to escape as fast as possible. But the paradox is, the more you struggle, the deeper you sink. People don't die in quicksand because they stand still. They die because they panic. And maybe life works in that same strange way. The more people try to control everything, the more out of control they feel. The more they try to be happy, the more exhausted they become. The more they try not to feel lonely, the emptier they feel inside. The more they try to prove their worth, the more worthless they secretly feel. Sounds absurd, doesn't it? But look at your own life for a moment. How many nights have you laid in bed, forcing yourself to fall asleep, only to end up awake at 2 or 3 in the morning? You keep checking the clock. 12 a.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and then panic starts. I'm screwed tomorrow. I still have so much to do. I need to sleep right now. And the harder you try to sleep, the more awake your mind becomes. It's like trying to remember a name. The harder you try, the emptier your mind feels. But then while taking a shower, or eating dinner, it suddenly comes back to you. Or think about trying to forget someone. You delete the photos, delete the messages, mute their stories, block their account. You tell yourself, I have to move on. But the harder you try to forget them, the more they appear in your mind. Because sometimes, what causes suffering isn't the problem itself. It's the resistance against it. Philosopher Alan Watts called this the backwards law. The idea is simple. Sometimes, the harder you chase something, the further away it gets. The harder you try to be happy, the more miserable you become. The harder you try to relax, the more anxious you feel. The harder you try to become someone special, the more ordinary you feel inside. And the scariest part is, most people spend their entire lives chasing things they believe will make them happy. Yet the more they chase, the more drained they become. People always think, if I had more money, I'd finally be okay. If I looked better, I'd feel confident. If I became more successful, my life would finally matter. So we keep running, study harder, work harder, compare ourselves more, exhaust ourselves more. Modern society feels like a race with no finish line. When you're young, people tell you, study hard and you'll be happy. Later it becomes, get a good job and your life will be stable. Then, buy a house, buy a car, build status. But strangely, the more people achieve, the more anxious many of them become. The richer they are, the more afraid they are of losing everything. The more famous they become, the more pressure they feel. The more successful they are, the more terrified they become of not being enough. Some people spend their whole lives in a constant state of preparing to be happy. They think, when I become better, then I'll finally live. But life doesn't wait for you to become perfect before it begins. It's happening right now, in this very moment, right while you're listening to this video. There's something deeply strange about human beings. We always think, just a little more money, a little more success, a little more validation, then I'll finally feel complete. But enough almost never exists in the human mind. Because once we get what we wanted, the brain immediately creates another target. That's why so many people achieve their dreams, yet still feel empty inside. They buy the car they always wanted, and the excitement fades after a few weeks. They land the dream job, and the satisfaction fades after a few months. They finally get the person they desired, yet still feel insecure. Not because those things are meaningless, but because they expected something external to fix an internal emptiness. And that emptiness cannot be filled that way. It's like drinking seawater. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. Arthur Schopenhauer believed that human beings live inside an endless cycle of desire. We constantly chase the next thing, because we think it will save us from dissatisfaction. But once we get it, the satisfaction only lasts for a short moment. Then the familiar feeling of lack returns. And the race begins again. A new phone. A new relationship. A better version of ourselves. Modern people are almost addicted to becoming. Always upgrading. Always improving. Always trying to become more than they are. And on the surface, that sounds positive. But sometimes, the constant need to become someone else is exactly what prevents you from ever resting. Social media makes this even worse. Every day, you open your phone and see people who seem richer, more attractive, more successful, happier, and slowly, you begin to feel like your own life isn't enough. You look at your room, and it suddenly feels too small. You look at your job, and it feels too ordinary. You look at yourself in the mirror, and somehow you don't feel attractive enough. Then the mind starts whispering, you need to try harder. But the problem is, that feeling of not enough doesn't disappear once you achieve what you wanted. It simply changes shape. Years ago you thought, if I had more money, I'd feel safe. Then once you get it, your mind says, no, now you need even more. At one point you thought, if I find love, I'll finally be happy. Then once you do, you become terrified of losing that person. At one point you thought, if people recognize me, I'll feel worthy. Then once they do, you become afraid of losing your place. That's why so many people look successful on the outside, while feeling completely exhausted on the inside. Because they never truly stopped. They never allowed themselves to simply exist. Without proving. Without competing. Without running. Just living. There's a famous Zen story about this. A man looked into a pond and wanted to see the bottom. But the water was muddy. So he started stirring the water with his hands, trying to make it clearer. But the more he stirred, the cloudier it became, until eventually, he stopped doing anything at all. And slowly, the mud settled on its own. The water became clear again. The human mind works the same way. The harder you force yourself to feel peaceful, the more restless you become. The harder you try to suppress negative thoughts, the stronger they grow. Some emotions don't disappear because you fight them. They soften when you stop fighting. Sadness works that way too. Many people are so afraid of sadness that they spend their lives trying to escape it. Playing loud music, scrolling endlessly through social media, going out constantly, texting non-stop, just so they don't have to be alone with their own thoughts. But the more they run, the more sadness follows them. Because some things in life do not need to be fixed. They only need to be felt. Alan Watts once said, when you try to stay on the surface of the water, you sink. But when you let go, you float. Life is full of strange paradoxes like this. When you try too hard to impress people, you become awkward. But when you relax and become yourself, people are naturally drawn to you. When you obsess over becoming perfect, you constantly notice your flaws. But when you accept imperfection, you suddenly feel lighter. When you try to force life to follow your plans, you suffer more disappointment. But when you learn how to adapt, life becomes much softer. This doesn't mean don't work hard, don't improve yourself, don't chase your dreams. No. Human beings still need to grow, still need to build a future, still need to create meaningful lives. But there is a massive difference between doing something because you love life and doing something because you hate who you are right now. A person who exercises because they love their body is very different from someone exercising because they hate themselves. A person who earns money because they want to experience life is different from someone trying to prove their worth through wealth. A person who loves from a place of fullness is different from someone loving only to escape loneliness. The actions may look identical, but the inner state is completely different. And that inner state determines whether you are truly living, or simply running away from the feeling that you are not enough. Maybe real peace doesn't come from having everything. Maybe it comes from realizing you don't need that much to feel alive. A quiet morning, a good meal, someone who understands you, a mind that no longer feels the need to fight itself every second. Maybe that's what human beings were searching for all along. Not becoming someone extraordinary, but learning how to live lightly. Maybe what you've been searching for all this time was never somewhere ahead of you. Maybe it exists in the moment. You stop forcing life to obey your expectations. Stop forcing yourself to be perfect. Stop forcing yourself to be strong all the time. Stop chasing the version of yourself that society told you to become. And for the first time, allow yourself to simply exist, without needing to be better than anyone else, without needing to prove anything. Just live. Because as Alan Watts once said, the mystery of life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. And if you're tired of constantly trying to become someone, maybe you're not alone. And if videos like this make your heart feel a little lighter, then stay here for a while. Maybe one day, in some quiet moment, you'll realize that some things only appear when you stop desperately trying to hold on to them.